all these up, what you get is something that looks like that, but only for a brief time. So you have maybe something like this. And if you have 1,000 of those, let's say, what you will get is something that looks smoother and smoother, but maybe with a little ripple noise on top, but transient like that, as the probability of these guys increasing, but immediately starting to decrease and turning off after a certain duration. Okay. Now, if this current is flowing through the channel and through a membrane, this is now the macroscopic current, right? The other one was single channel. This is the macroscopic current, much bigger current. If that is now what's flowing through this membrane, it can produce some sort of, it will produce a voltage change, right? This voltage change will obviously be transient, right? And so if this voltage change in a cell produces a certain signal, and I'm jumping ahead here, but we'll come back to that again. If this current produces a certain signal and it's transient, that signal, let's say, is these spikes, they're going to start waning or decreasing, and that's what we call accumulation. Okay. So, and I'm just going to call these spikes for now, or action potentials, as some of you already know. So if the current produces this, but the result of this might be either just one of these and then it turns off, but it depends on the scale. But if this is a slow one, you may have several, but decreasing in frequency. So this is getting bigger, this interval is getting bigger and bigger until it turns off. And we call that okay. What else? All right. So next time we're gonna look at the molecular properties of these channels more as a molecular biology kind of point, from a molecular biology point of view. I want to say one more thing about action potentials and how these channels produce that and what they are. But basically, this is all I want to say about the electrical properties of a neuron. Then we'll talk a little bit about how an action potential is generated that involves the combination of the action of several different currents. But at the microscopic level, this is all I want you to remember. Ion channels gate. The gating can be modified or affected by voltage, by ligands. Those ligands can bind from the outside of the membrane as well as from the inside of the membrane, and so can these pharmacological agents. So the ligands that bind from the inside of the membrane are typically called second messengers, because somehow something produces a change in concentration of those ligands that is typically related to something that happens outside. So inside, they act as messengers that are affected by some other messenger, and we'll talk about that more too. So those messengers can affect the channel from the inside here, okay? So second messengers, and modify their state and produce an increase in the probability of opening and something like this.
What did you say before, calcium is a second messenger?
And calcium is a very, very important second messenger. We'll talk more about that too. Calcium is then both, right? It's an ion that crosses channels, but then can act on other things inside. And that's what I mean. So let's say a calcium channel is voltage dependent. We also say voltage gated. Okay, so channels can be voltage dependent or voltage gated. Same thing. Okay, because the gating is affected by voltage. So the calcium channel can be voltage dependent. That may lead to the opening of calcium channels. Calcium can flow into a cell And then the same calcium can act on another channel and open it from the inside, or another enzyme that then does something to channels or other things. So calcium is a very interesting beast and does a lot of things inside cells. It then has to get trapped. The concentration here doesn't have to be, but in all cells it does. Calcium is found at very, very low concentrations inside the cell. And that is because there are pumps everywhere, inside the cell, in membranes of the ER. There are calcium pumps that use ATP and move calcium inside and accumulate it in the ER. There are calcium pumps on the membrane that use ATP also and move out of the membrane. And so in the cytosol of most cells, there's very, very little calcium. And so if an ion channel that carries calcium opens up, it can produce a large calcium concentration change, locally, especially under the channel, but in general in the cytosol, that can have very significant effects. Because most other enzymes are tuned to be sensitive to very low concentrations. So if all of a sudden concentration goes up, it can have very dramatic effects. And we'll see one of them has to do with synaptic transmission, where calcium is key. So the release of neurotransmitters at the synapse. We'll go back to that. All right, so the channels can be gated. They can be gated from the outside. They can be gated from the inside. They can be blocked with pharmacological agents. There are some pharmacological agents that can open channels as well. They're not only blocked, okay? But those are typically can also be toxins. And of course, they have a conductance that is given by simply this, the ratio between the current that flows divided by the voltage across. Okay, the driving force, call this the driving force. You can measure conductance, and they're selective. Those four properties. Conductance, selectivity, gauging, and their pharmacology describes, is what is used to characterize ion channels. And then they have these kind of gaining properties that are a little more complex that involve an activation. Some channels will turn off while the stimulus is still on. Okay, what about action potentials? Action potentials are electrical responses or electrical signals produced by neurons, and not all neurons, but most neurons produce action potentials. And we call them also spikes. So action potentials spikes. These things are typically produced in response to a change in voltage in the cell, which could be produced by some positive ion moving through a channel, by you injecting some positive current into a cell. Okay? And if a cell is sitting at its resting potential, has to be there doing nothing, all of a sudden this voltage may increase due to something like that. Now, let me use words that we have already defined. For example, a graded potential, a synaptic or a receptive potential. Okay? So the cell somehow is stimulated by a neurotransmitter at the synapse. So you have a synapse, something is released, and here all of a sudden these positive ions are flowing into the cell. So this would be a synaptic potential, or if the cell is sensitive to mechanical stimulation, that typically what mechanical stimulation does is open channels, simply mechanically deforms the channel which open up. So for instance in your ear, the little cells in the cochlea, the organ that connected to the outer ear, to the little ossicles in the middle ear and all that, in the cochlea you have these little cells that respond to mechanical stimulation, which is simply the vibration of the air molecules that make all the tympanic membrane, all those little ossicles move, and all those vibrations that are translated, transduced is the word, by little channels that are very sensitive to those mechanical deformations due to this vibration. So directly a channel can open up and close, okay, by, in this case, not a ligand, but some sort of other stimulation. Okay? So I didn't put it in here, but other sources of energy, if you like. Okay? And the mechanical vibration is clearly certainly a source of energy. So these guys can respond and open up, and positive charges will go in. So you have all these different graded potentials that can bring the voltage slightly up, right? And if they're very weak, it's going to bring it up to a little bit. If it's stronger, it's going to bring it up a little more. If it's very strong, these things, they exceed the threshold, and all of a sudden, something happens by itself that does not require any further energy. So here you're putting a stimulus that is bigger, bigger, bigger. You can turn it off, and this thing will still go up. What happens is that these positive charges are changing the voltage across the membrane and activating voltage-gated channels. And those channels typically are sodium, but can also be calcium. And all of a sudden, these channels, which are closed and have this little lid on them, as a function of an increase in voltage, will open up. Okay, so from here to there, as a function of voltage, they open up and the channels will go to an open state, and now sodium, which is very concentrated outside, can rush in, or calcium. And notice what happens. As the sodium goes in, it makes the voltage even more positive. Right? So that has, again, an effect on the voltage-gated channels that respond to voltage. And what you're doing basically is moving in this axis in this graph, right? The voltage keeps growing. And therefore, you keep recruiting more and more of these channels. The probability that these channels open keeps increasing. And more channels will open. So as the voltage increases, more of these grow. And this voltage keeps growing and now shoots up on its own, if you like. That's why we call them action potentials, because this action word refers to the fact that these things all of a sudden can do it by themselves. It's a regenerative process. Okay. Now the interesting thing is that these action potentials then terminate by themselves as well. We can talk about that later. But they have this property of having a threshold. If this threshold is exceeded, you'll get one. Okay. If the signal is long, so that it goes past this point where this action potential is coming down back down to its resting level, you may have, it may not exactly reach where it was before, but something more close to where it was launched from in the preceding action potential. So this thing may never be, so this will be for one, okay? But if you have a long pulse or a short pulse, short stimulus, but if the stimulus is longer, this voltage may never come down all the way to what it was before, but remain very close to the threshold, and maybe another action potential will be generated. And if this thing still stays up here, you can have this repeat itself many times. And you can have a whole train of these guys. So if the cell receives an input, let's say one of these mechanical inputs that I was talking about here, mechanical potential, receptor potential. Let's say you're pressing against your skin for a long time, you feel it for a long time. What's happening there is that channels like these are opening up, positive charges are moving in, and keeping the voltage at a value that is close to this threshold. And so action potentials can be fired, and that's what we use, they're fired, in succession, and you can get a long train of these guys to be generated. Until maybe the stimulus goes away, in which case this will go back to its resting state. Now notice something very interesting. This stimulus, which was a graded potential, right, and I drew it as a pulse, but it can be smooth or whatever, it doesn't matter. But this stimulus, first of all, is graded, right, because the lower one will not produce an action potential because it will depolarize itself below threshold. And I use the word depolarize. The voltage increases but remains below threshold. Even a long pulse will do the same, right? It will stay low below threshold and never reach that value, so action potential will not generate. Now, this up a bit. See what happens now if we keep increasing this, but now we increase it beyond threshold. What will you see? Before where did I do that? If you reach near threshold, what you get here is something that is what cells neurons typically do, which is translate this smooth change in a stimulus into something that isn't smooth, right? But is coded, if you like, by a train of these guys, a train of action potentials that has a certain frequency. So the time it takes between one and the next will depend on whether you reach threshold. Now, what if you go further beyond threshold, and now you make this pulse much stronger? Let's say I'm gonna lower the bass and just something. So now, instead of a small change, you make a big change. Same value here. It starts depolarizing, right? Let's say the threshold is still the same. But because this is bigger, it will depolarize faster. I'm not drawing it very well, but it will go higher much faster because you're injecting basically more energy by changing the voltage so strongly. So first of all, the first action potential will appear earlier, but then because this is bigger, the voltage will not go down as much, and this may remain above threshold. And as soon as this thing goes down here, it may recover and start again at a much higher rate, simply because you are keeping it much more depolarized beyond this threshold. So a graded potential, like this one, the amplitude of a graded potential gets coded in terms of a frequency, of the frequency of the action potential. That's something that people call a rate code, and that's something that all neurons do. They transform a smooth, graded input, like a graded potential, like a receptor potential or a synaptic potential, into something that is smooth, and is coded in terms of the number of action potentials per unit time, or rate, the rate of action potential generation. So this is the rate of action potential generation. Why is this possible? Well, because there is this threshold. So the threshold is due to the fact that we have a curve like the one I erased here, where you have an increase in the probability that the channel will open with voltage, right? And if you have it many channels, that means the increase in the probability that a certain minimum number of channels will open. So if one tends to be more open with voltage, if you have 1,000, then some will not open, some will open. On average, more channels will open. That means the larger current will flow through those channels. right? A larger current as a function of voltage. The more you push the voltage, and typically it's in the positive direction, so the more positive the voltage gets, the more likely it is that the channel will open, and that many will open, and the more you open, the more you change the voltage, producing this runaway reaction, if you like, that corresponds to an action potential. And that is an impulse that can travel along a nerve, an axon that runs inside a nerve all the way to the tip of your fingers right now. So that's why we also call these impulses. But the impulse really refers to an action potential traveling in the nerve. So for now, I haven't said anything about the nerve. I'll mention that in a second. So a rate code is due, in fact, in the first place because there is such a thing as a threshold. So at some point you can start producing action potentials. If you fall right below this action potential, the impulse goes away. Okay? But if it rises again beyond that, you can produce another one. And secondly, this happens because these action potentials terminate themselves. How do they terminate themselves? Because of certain channels inactive. That's the primary reason. So the channels that are producing this depolarization have that property. They open first, and even while the stimulus is on, they close again, they're inactive. And it takes a certain time to go back to the state from which they can open again, because they have to change conformation to make one or more other states, and then fully open, because this direction does not work. So a channel, imagine it as a thing that has a pore in the center, it's closed, you change the voltage, it opens up, ions flow, and then it closes again, but maybe in a different conformation than the initial closed state, and that's what we call inactivated state. So let's say it goes like this, that kind of thing, and in order for it to go back to the state from which it was open, it has to transition, okay, through a different fork shape, and that takes time. That's in the case sometimes. In that time is what determines how long you spend in this state. So the channels here are closing, that's why the voltage is coming down. And then until a new one can open, you have to bring these channels back to a state from which they can open. And that is something that's called the refractory period, or time. So it will take some time before you can open another one. Okay? But that time will also depend on the stimulus. So that time will depend on the stimulus. So if the stimulus is stronger, that time becomes shorter, and that's why you can produce a different rate with a stronger stimulus.
And it also depends on the transition of the channels as well?
Yeah, it's all part of the same story, yes. Okay, so you can transition these faster to this position so that they can open, and that's partly what allows this to happen at different rates depending on the strength of that graded input that you're putting in.
What is it about the change from inactivated to open that makes it so unfavorable?
Can I answer that question next time?
Yeah.
When we talk about the structure of these channels in more detail? Let me say it this way. That inactivation process involves binding something, and the opening cannot happen until that unbinds from the channel. And it's really a part of the same channel. So when the channel is in the open state, the inactivation involves something that gets in the way of the ions to flow. And in order for the whole channel to open up again, that needs to come up. So it is, you can think of it as a cascade of events where the way the channel closes into this state requires for it to go to go away before the channel can begin this stage. So let's see that. Let's see that for next time. So okay. So I wanted to say today, we go very but a few more minutes. If you have questions, I'm sure there's confusion. So if you don't understand, we can go over this again. But the essence of what I wanted to say is channels can be characterized. Channels could lie. Obviously, can be characterized by these properties. Channels could lie. And the current that flows through a channel can produce changes in voltage that can either be something smooth, but it changes as a function of current flowing through the membrane, so the resistor resistance, the current resistance of the membrane that we have talked about, so changes all changes, comes back. But if it changes beyond a certain threshold, in most neurons, what you will get is this regenerative response that we call an action potential. And that's the one thing I wanted to say, but I'll say it next time. So Ricky said we would start here. Okay? And that has to do with how it communicates over resistance. Alright. Good. Those would be